let's see what we got going on here. All right. Boom. Okay. Blitzkrieg, this is the Neuroforge. No one heard me earlier because I messed up the audio. This is Hober Mallow, dev team. Y'all know who I am. Y'all probably watched my other video. Here's what's going on. The Neuroforge changes. You're gonna know what this means, right? There's a blog post for you to take a look at. The Neuroforge updates. If you're listening to this, you've probably read the blog post. I don't need to go over that. Added the ability to neuroforge items once neurobounded. You know that. You know about that. You know about existing items now being neuroforged. The number of mods you can get added with Bindo is limited up to 2. We made this change. I explained why. The number of items that are, or the number of mods that you can have on an item should be about 6 or 7 on the highest quality items, so like exalted or above. That's the number of mods you can get around that much. Something that I don't know that many people were aware of is that we made it now so that if there are any Tech 20 and above items that you build that come from a blueprint and are not base items, if they're rare or higher, they get a chance for mods. So building things from blueprints is actually going to give you the opportunity to get mods now. So you don't have to worry too much about whether or not you're getting items from a blueprint or if you're getting items from a drop. You can still get mods. So that's going to be a really cool change that I think people will really appreciate because you can do the mod roll, the bindo fishing, the whole shenanigans. Something that again we didn't mention before we added this, and we kind of added late in, is that we don't allow you to neurobound, neuroforge, or mod strip in remote inventories anymore. This had issues. There were some bugs with regards to modding and stripping the wrong items. And if anyone uses the remote inventories, like if you open your bot's inventory or use another ship's inventory remotely, you'll know that sometimes there's weird glitches where sometimes the wrong item can be tossed or used or consumed, or they can be phantom items. We did not want to have to deal with all the problems that would come with that, and we did not want players to be frustrated about, trying to use the Neuroforge and Neurobinding in a remote inventory and creating a headache for themselves. So we just removed that ability to do it. It was bugged. It was causing problems. So we needed to get rid of it. We added the ability to prevent pinned items from being mod stripped. So this is going to be really cool for anybody who's really concerned about accidentally removing their mods from their items. I should talk about this. So Norbound gear previously was getting a 10% power increase because it was unable to be modded. We've changed that. So that now instead of a 10% power increase, those things can just get mods. And as a result, right, like it's just better, right? You put a Bindomite on your gear, right? Yeah, maybe it has a little bit less stats, but you just throw some Bindo on and now it's better already. Well, maybe not all the time, but most of the time. Okay, so we added 2 new mods. For those of you who haven't been on the test server, these 2 new mods were added to engines and for vectored and scoops and hull expanders for hot pockets. And vectored is a cool like plus turning minus thrust mod. We did this because we made some changes to gyroscopic. All of the changes to mods are not listed here in these patch notes. So if you like scroll through these patch notes, you'll see that like there are going to be things in here that are changed that were not listed, right? You'll see it in the server. But basically, we made adjustments to those mods. We made it so that other mods. Oh, hot pockets. Sorry, hot pockets give you plus cargo slots. There's also some really cool little bonus. I forget. It's a little cool little bonus that it gives as well. We've expanded certain mods onto additional item types as well. So we've now got things like rewired and shielded on like radars, and capacitors have some cool new mods as well. Radioactive is percent energy instead of flat, of course. Super intelligent and evil no longer give slightly more bonuses on weapons, right? So on live they might give like almost 5%, but they're same 3% as for super intelligent and 1.65 I think for evil. Okay, class changes. I'm going to speed run through this. You'll see these patch notes when you look for yourself, but I'm just going to speed run through them right now so that you can kind of just get them out there. Let's go. So, Ranger, blog post. If you want to deep dive into why we did what we did, you can look at the blog post when these patch notes go up, or you can just go to the blog post yourself. It's there. So with the Ranger class, now it is going to add 150 range, up to double, and 50% projectile velocity. In the same way that Zen of Far Reaching, for those of you who know, adds, I think it's like 300 range. It might be 300. Might be a little bit more. Um, this adds 150, just straight up, just range. It just adds 150 extra range in the same way that the Zen of Far Reaching works. Ranger Class 2, Overloaders are twice as effective in heavy fighters. It does what it says. Overloaders are twice as effective. Ranger Class 3, remove the ability to use a sniper analysis, and now you get 20% physical damage and 30% damage on Ranger Class 3. Marksman, and this is the first subskill, has 3 levels. We got rid of Stalking. Stalking is an advanced subskill now. Marksman grants you a Ranger Scope so that you can get empowered shots and you can mark enemies for the bonus echo damage. As you level it up, you get more max marks from 2 to 4 to 6. And then also it gives you a little bit of damage and minus visibility per level. Sharpshooting, it's been changed to give 24% range up to and 10% damage per level up to when you're under 40 speed. So whenever you're sitting still, whenever you're going under 40 speed instead of sitting still, you get those bonuses, but you get tracking and damage all the time. True Grit, new thing we added. We didn't talk about it too much in the previous sniper blog post. This gives you mitigation to incoming damage. So basically, when you're damaged, 20% of damage per level, of incoming damage per level, is converted to a parasite that lasts for 30 seconds when you're in a heavy fighter. So 60% of your incoming damage is going to get converted to a parasite that takes 30 seconds to deal whatever amount of damage that you took to your ship. You also get 10% damage and 10% shield recovery while you're in the heavy fighter. Then we've got Zen of Ranger. So Zen of Ranger, right? New. It's not Zen of Sniper anymore. Remember, we're Sniper now. We're Ranger now. We're not Sniper. You get 2% thrust and speed per level as an aura added to your ship and your bots per level when under 40 speed. You also get 1% shield recovery per level. This means you get 100% thrust and 100% speed per level added to your ship and your bots because you emanate that bonus as an aura to your bots. And you also get 1% shield recovery, so that's 50% shield recovery when you max it out. Then we have some changes to advanced class subskills. So one of them is Survivalist. We changed Long Scope. Instead of Long Scope, you now get Survivalist. And Survivalist makes it so that whenever you have a mark on an enemy, 3.33% of their damage extra is converted into grit. At max marks, this is a 20% increase to the damage that is converted into grit. This means 80% of their damage is going to be converted into grit if you take this. It's pretty good, especially considering, and it isn't mentioned on the True Grit subskill up here, that if you kill the target before your grit has ticked down, that grit is deleted. So it's going to be really strong. I think Survivalist and True Grit is going to be a really powerful combination that that Rangers decide to take. So I'm pretty excited about that. There's some players who figured out that that's going to be a really strong and powerful thing. So we'll see what ends up happening. Okay, so let's go next. Next we have Quickscope. So Quickscope unlocks the Ranger Quickscope, which charges 25% faster. So this Quickscope is going to be charged 25% faster, and it'll have a 4-second charge time instead of a 5-second charge time. That means your empowered shots will happen once every 4 seconds instead of once every 5 seconds. Grooved Bores, same name, different functionality. You have 50% increased projectile velocity, minus 33% tracking, 20% damage. Just a solid damage pick if you can deal with the minus tracking and increased projectile velocity. Then there's Stalking. It used to be called Marksman. Now it causes your firing visibility to decrease twice as fast. So if it takes 5 seconds for you to lose the 100 visibility that the weapon gives you, it will now take 2.5 seconds. And it also gives minus 15% visibility. So it's pretty good. At least I think it's pretty good. Okay. And then finally, we removed the Sniper Analyzer, of course, because we added the Ranger Scope. And we added the new Ranger Scope to the Lyceum Station. Next up, we've got Gunner. Same thing with Ranger. There's a blog post about it. I'm going to quickly speed through this and add some details if there needs to be. Gunner Class 1, we removed multi-firing. It doesn't have multi-firing anymore. We've replaced it with 40% electric tempering and 60% damage. The Gunner Class 2 has removed the capital ship lock to resistance to damage, so it has resistance to damage on Gunner Class 2 now, on all hulls. What isn't mentioned here is that the mining damage on here that is locked to Gunner only is still Gunner only. Gunner Class 2 still has the mining damage lock on it. Gunner Class 3, we've changed the from the 56% damage on the class skill to missiles having 20% damage and the gunner itself getting 30% shield max. Really making it clear, like, hey, you should be using missiles on your gunner. Now we can jump to the sub-skill. So the first sub-skill, Big Guns, doesn't give 15% damage per level. It gives 25% damage per level. And instead of 15% range per level, it has 7% range. More damage, less range. Juice Junkie, we've made it so that electric tempering is no longer capital ship locked. So you can get these the electric tempering bonuses in a non-capital ship now. Destruction has been completely changed. So previously, Destruction gave an increase to target vulnerability as an on-hit effect. Not an on-hit effect. As a side effect, as a tweak effect on your missiles to the target. And what this has been changed to now is that all of the damage that you do to your target with your weapons increases the damage that other sources take, and your damage acts as if you've done 7 times that amount to the target, and that's how much extra damage people are allowed to consume. So you do 100 DPS, you'll do 100 damage. Other people are allowed to have 700 DPS worth of damage doubled. So in total, the total DPS that a squad can get from the gunner is 800 DPS, right? They do 100 DPS. 700 more DPS is eligible to be triggered by the rest of the squad. That's 800 more by the gunner. We've also made it so that your missiles and fighters consume 20% more marks. So missiles and fighters, when you're alone, are going to be a really good way to use your marks as a gunner. Then mass destruction. It was automated reloading in before, but now what it does is it makes the amount of damage the gunner's missiles and fighters can consume from gunner marks increased by 40%. So this means that your missiles and fighters will do 3 times their damage when they're shooting a target that you have shot instead of 2 times. It's pretty good. Okay, shield remodulation. Instead of giving plus electric tempering, it now gives minus damage. Before, plus electric tempering was a must pick. It was just, oh, of course I'll take this. It's a little bit of electric tempering. And now minus damage in exchange for more resistance to damage should be a much more fair trade-off, and people will think a little bit more tough or a little bit more about whether or not they want to take it. Gunboat diplomacy. So we're trying something really new and interesting here. Instead of just making this affect heavy fighter, we're also making it affect support freighter. We've also made some changes to missile launchers so that missile launchers on support freighters are pretty close to being as good as they are on capital ships. So this should be an interesting thing. Maybe somebody will figure out how to make a support freighter gunner. You know, maybe we'll have a matriarchal. Dang, I don't remember what it's called. It's not the Edge. It's the matriarch. Jeez, someone in the chat tell me, or someone in the comments say what it is. It's the matriarch ship. So there's a 35% missile damage increase when you're using a heavy fighter or support freighter now. So that should be pretty good. All right, Zen of Gunner has the old bonuses it had, but it also has 1% shield recovery per level. So that's a 50% increase to shield recovery now, which I think should be pretty good. All right. Moving on. Targeting computers no longer restrict the main weapon from firing, and we've also adjusted some targeting computer stats. This is things like the acquiring range of the targeting computer, how many targets it can shoot within a particular range. We've adjusted the number of targets that it can shoot extra. We've adjusted the damage that it does and the electricity that it costs. And we also made the targeting computers affect all targets. Not all targets. The targeting computer can shoot the same target as many times as it says it can fire extra shots. We've also added bot-only targeting computers for capital ships, and we've locked the the players targeting computers to their own ships now, so you can't use those anywhere else. Now let's see. Moving on. Oh, just got a notice that downtime is going to have to be extended. So this is going to last a little bit longer. Cool. All right. So Berserker. The blog post for Berserker tells you all in detail, like it's got a lot of stuff here, but Berserker has a section down here where I talk about some of the details behind why we did what we did here in Berserker. Anyway, let's move on and talk about it. So, Berserker class 1, bots don't get 40 multiplier anymore. Just remove the 40 bot multiplier, and we added 60% weapon hold to Berserker class 1. This looks like a nerf. However, we made an adjustment so that all of your bots baseline get 50% of your class stats. So we do not need to give 40 bot multi-firing anymore because your bots are going to just get your multi-firing when they're supposed to. And you don't need to worry about getting any extra from any other source. So that's why that was done. Next, we have we added 20% resistance to damage to Berserker class 2. And then Ordnance Supremacy, we reduced the reduce the damage from 36% per level to 10% per level. And we added minus 11% electric tempering. On Impervious Armor, we changed it so that 10% damage resistance per level was guaranteed when you took damage from the front. And we added 7% resistance to damage baseline. So whenever you're getting shot from the front, you're going to take less damage. Arsenal Expertise was changed to 20% damage, and we give 7% capacity in Heavy Fighter. Then we made some adjustments to the Advanced Class subskill. So Berserker, well, I'm going to skip Berserker Classic. Berserker gives 30% speed, well, on live, but it gave 30% speed on live, but now it gives 10%. Eye for an Eye has had its damage resistance reduced from 25% to 7%. And finally, Berserker Classic has been changed to give a free extra shot at all times. So the moment you take this, you're going to go from 3 shots to 4 shots, like you have multi-firing 4 basically. And then you're going to get 100 extra multi-firing, so you can equip another weapon, and you can shoot 5 shots with 4 weapons. Your firing rate, the firing rate penalty is going to be variable. So if you're shooting 4 shots, you get 20%. If you're shooting 5 shots, you get minus 30%. Okay. And then Recon Focus. So we added 30% shield recovery to Recon Focus 1, 2, and 3. So it's a pretty nice chunky amount of shield recovery. We also added a hull extension slot to Recon Focus 2. So instead of Expansionist giving you a hull expansion slot, it just gives you double cargo holds on expanders and an extra weapon slot. Speed Demon. We changed the first class. If you have rate of fire higher than 10 shots per second, so higher than 0.1 recoil, or lower than 0.1 recoil is what I should say, that gets converted to damage and electric tempering. We've made it so that the first skill gives you 25% projectile damage. The second skill gives you 25% projectile damage and 12% rate of fire. The first skill gives you speed, damage, and docking speed. 20% speed, 33% damage, 60% docking speed. Speed Demon Class 3 gives you 45% damage, minus 22% electric tempering. Dogfighting is an advanced class subskill. We just got rid of the... dogfighting is the subskill, and we removed the minus range on dogfighting. What this means is that Speed Demon does not have like minus 30% range anymore. So you don't have to worry about having minus range. It's gone. Acrobat. We reduced the inertial dampening amount from minus 50% to minus 33%, and then we removed the minus 50% critical hit effect duration. But we added 20% shield recovery. So if you want to be more shield regen oriented, you pick Acrobat. We also added the new Speed Demon target tracker. What this does is it shoots your projectile weapons, as if they were a beam. Right? So it'll fire them in a turreted fashion as if it was a beam. Let's go. Here we go. Seer. Lots of changes here. I'm going to be really quick. Seer Class 1. gives you extra damage for every 1% shields lost against the target, up to a maximum of 100%. You also get damage and minus visibility now on it. 18% damage, minus 10% visibility. Seer Class 2 gives you double charge rate on micro warpers and translocators, and you get 25% damage. And then Seer Class 3 makes your ambushes count as backstabs, and we give you some range, 25%. We've changed all of the, well, most of the sub skills. So Shadow Ambush gives plus backstab damage, plus 10%, and 15% damage. Now, something to indicate here is that backstabs do not work the same that they worked on live prior to the patch. If you shoot something in the back half of its ship, on the back arc of the ship, for about 5 seconds, you are going to get the plus backstab damage bonus. So all you have to do is shoot it in the back one time every 5 seconds, and you get that damage bonus. With Seer Class 3, it means not only do you have to shoot it in the back, well, you don't only have to shoot it in the back. You could also shoot it from ambush. You could shoot it from a place of invisibility where it can't see you, and you get the backstab bonus. So this is a really consistent way to make sure you have your bonus up all the time. We've reduced the radar bonus on Psychic Sight on the subskill from 60% to 15%. We increased the damage from 12 to 20%, and then we reduced the critical hit strength from 33 to 15. On Psionic Shrouding, we changed the visibility from minus 15% to minus 10%. We removed the critical hit resistances, and we added 10% damage and minus 10% weight per level. So that's a nice mobility bonus. It's basically the same thing as like plus turning and thrust, but you also are lighter. We made a bunch of changes to advanced class subskills, so I'll jump through those quick. Wraith, you get 35% extra critical hit strength, multiplicative against targets that are below 50% shields. Boom, more damage. Clairvoyant, you don't get plus 5% critical hit percentage, but you have 25% resistance to damage if you get shot from the back. So you get shot from the back, 25% extra resistance to damage. Assassin, instead of backstab only lasting for 5 seconds, the backstab bonus lasts for 7 seconds instead. It's like a 40% increase to the duration. You also get an extra warper slot. So you can have 2 warpers, and the warpers charge twice as fast. Pretty good, I think. Zen of Seer. So the visibility per level went from minus 0.5% to minus 0.2%. This should be a minus 10% if I'm correct. Yes, minus 50%, 50 times 20%, 0.22%. Yeah, that's a minus 10% visibility bonus on Zen of Seer. The other stats are still the same. We got rid of the psionic radar targeting and weapons jammers. You can't get them anymore. We got rid of nanite devices, and we added a new Seer modulator device. You're going to get it when you pick Seer as well. Seer modulator basically guarantees a critical hit with your weapon shot every 2 seconds. Currently, critical hits are not applying to extra shots that come from multi-firing. We plan on fixing this as soon as we can, but that's just something to keep in mind. Engineer, Engineer Class 1, we removed, well, we didn't remove anything. We changed the temporary drone non-transference damage bonus from 35% to 55%. And then we added a deployed drone. We gave it more damage as a recognition of the fact that engineers are not going to have the ability to AUG for critical hit chance. Sorry, not AUG. Gear for critical hit chance as easily as other classes. So that's why we made that change. And with adding +1 deployed drone, this means that engineer does not need to pick the advanced class subskill droney anymore in order to get an extra drone. It just comes baked in. Now, Shield Monkey. We've updated the shield stealing skill description to state that you have minus damage when stealing instead of just 66% efficiency. That wasn't clear. So you basically do not steal for 100% of the damage that your weapon does. You steal for a fraction of it, 66% of it. So you look at the weapon, it says it does 100% HPS. You steal for 100 HPS. You steal for 67 HPS. Let's see. Let's look at these advanced class subskill changes. Droney. Drone controllers, remember Droney doesn't give a +1 drone slot anymore. Drone controllers give 100% tweaking on non-engineer classes and 15% tweaking on engineer classes. This is a pretty big amount of tweaking. It's kind of like AUG tweaking for your drone controller. Bot PhD, all assets now have a baseline 50% when inheriting skills. Bot PhD just adds a 10% additional stats from skills for bots while still maintaining the bonus slots that it does on live. So you still get all the slots, but instead of 60% of or 30% of your bonuses of your skill bonuses applying to bots when you pick bot PhD, it's just 10%, and your baseline is 50%. Resilient has been changed so that you and your possessions, combat bots, drones, and fighters, take 20% less damage from any indirect damage. This is not a resistance to damage increase. This is a literal multiplier, so it does not work like resist augmods. It works like a diffuser would. You literally just straight up take 20% less damage. Any incoming damage is multiplied by zero point 0.8, 80%. You take 80% of the damage. Strategic deployment. When you're out of combat, you just get 50% speed. That should be pretty good, right? The old thing was like a flat speed. Wasn't that great most of the time. Expansionist and Big Banker. This is the recon focus skill and the combat focus skill. They do not work on trade bots anymore. They don't get those anymore. Okay. There's some other things here about, some missions being fixed, some skins. People might be happy to know that some Empyrean skins got added, Masala Paxian skins, Operative Paxian skins. Um, the in-flight use and station buttons were backwards on remote inventories. We made the base button a station button instead. We made some beam and lightning visuals look nicer. Thank you so much, Xantra, for doing that. And also, we made it so that the shield bar is only going to appear if the player can detect the enemy. So if someone is invisible and they have like a damage over time effect on them, you can't see them, you can't detect them, their shield bar will not show up. So this means no more will seers and speed demons with fire dots on them show up and like with a flashing shield bar and you can see them. Really annoying for those people, I'm sure. Okay, let's see. Okay, bunch of changes here. I'm going to zoom through these, give you the high level, and then you can see them in the game. So we reduced the weight of a variety of items in the game. This was like fighters, missiles, drones, capital ships. It's pretty substantial, right? 80% for fighters, 85% for missiles, 83% for drones, and 40% for capital ships. We rebalanced all weapons with damage over time. So less DPE for weapons that give parasites or fires. The sizes of some beams and transferences were changed, so really big ones that were long range are not excessively large, and really small ones with short range are no longer excessively small. Look forward to more changes coming for some of the small weapons. I understand that they don't seem as desirable anymore, or they're just not as desirable anymore in relation to the really big ones. Sorry, the really long range ones. We rebalanced missile bays and missiles. They're completely different. You're going to just need to look at them when you see there. Their reload time is way lower, and missiles are generally a lot more maneuverable, and they fire out in a fan. We've added missile salvos now, so you have multiple missiles in a salvo. It looks really cool. Oh, also, missiles don't get hit by collision code, so that's cool, right? Like, now they just have to be shot down by stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff for missiles. Starting at Tech 22, ships get 25% per level of critical hit resistances. So Tech 22 is 25%. Tech 23 would be 50% per level. And this gets added to the baseline critical hit resistances that all capital ships and heavy fighters have. All right. Some people brought up that the Imperial Grand Eclipse / Total Eclipse had bad stats. I updated those stats. There are probably going to be some more changes or updates coming to it based on feedback from players, but for right now, we updated the stats. Any items that were from the Ruin that had the lore skill requirement, so KMW, Kakao Mzungu Laser Warfares, are a good one to point out. They don't get a power increase. They got a power increase for silly reasons. They don't get it anymore. We were saving that for this patch. Gone. Various shields have been rebalanced. This means regeneration-based shields have been increased significantly. That's specifically what this means. There's a specific shield, the M51 Benefactor, which had a bunch of shield bank and regen, and I made it so that ships with minus speed do not get plus shields anymore. It works like all other augments. I rebalanced various on-hit effects. chain, bounce, splash, AoE, right? These should be more interesting. It shouldn't be that people just use AoE all the time. There should be reasons to use other on-hit effects now. I'm looking forward to hear what players have to say. When I say AoE, I mean area effect. I know in game it says area effect, but internally we refer to it as AoE. So, pointing that out. Okay, so shipbound supers no longer count against your super slots when equipped. If you have a shipbound super but not sticky, shipbound means it can be unequipped. Sticky means it cannot be. Shipbound means it cannot be transferred out of the ship. Shipbound supers no longer count against your super slots when equipped. This is a very important thing to remember. So anyone who uses strong super items on your ships, these super items have been adjusted. So now, let me explain. The inherent warrior focus on the Kalthi warrior, um, it doesn't disable the main weapon anymore with a janky effect. It uses the weapon disabled gremlin. I also removed or changed the amount of energy charge that it gives, the negative shield charge, and the electric tempering effect. So to change from what it does for yourself and to allies and so on and so forth. I also did the same thing with the warrior focus heart, warrior focus body, and warrior focus mind. They have all had their bonuses shifted and changed and adjusted. These were very strong super items that were a lot more distorting than we wanted them to be. I tried to keep the meaning or the intention behind their stats, but they were too strong to stay as they were. The Kalthi Railgun protocol has had its description rewritten. We reduced the minus speed and force thrust debuff on it from 10 seconds to 3 seconds, so it lasts for 3 seconds. And then the damage bonus it gives has been reduced from 300% to 150. Now, this is the most important part for anyone who's in game right now. If you're Tech 23 and you use any of the ships that use these super items, you want to pay close attention to this. This is very important for you. So the following supers are now shipbound instead of sticky, and they're now unique with damage tweaks. The Operative Snook, the Basarm Bombard, the Fallen Shelling Focus, the Forerunner Shelling Focus, the Masala Blend, and the Matriarchal Overwhelming Fury. We've adjusted their stats and their damage values as such. So instead of the Overwhelming Fury giving 50% damage and 40% minus 40% recoil, it's 100% damage and minus 20% recoil. Fallen Shelling Focus has gone to just straight up 90% damage. Forerunner Shelling Focus has gone to 90% damage. Masala Blend went to minus 55% recoil. The Basarm Bombard has been moved to 87.5% damage. The Operative's Nook is minus 60% recoil now instead of minus 40% recoil and 50% damage. And then I've also adjusted the following neurotiques with radar bonuses. So Galileo's Telescope now gives 75% radar instead of 196%. Constable's Attitude gives 50 instead of 40. Nexus Tweak gives 30 instead of 90%. Something to remember is that radar tweaks effects also affect detection as well as vision. So vision and detection are now affected. This is going to make these a lot better than they were. Most sources of flat visibility are now percent visibility. So fires, spotty beams, etc. You're not going to be made instantly visible with these things. Hooray, speed demons, seers, and snipers. We've increased the Annihilator platform's range to the same range as the Achilles, and we've slid all of the other platforms' range down to the previous level's range. So the Annihilator platform weapon no longer has splash. This also changes the AI Empire's drones that you're going to be fighting at Universe Reset. The projectile count on the Imperial Propagation Cannon, which is a weapon used by Celestial Harasser drones, has been reduced. This should reduce the amount of spam on the screen. Reaver Lavers don't have minus 100% turning anymore. This is on the AI only version now. Anyone who is using the Reaver bots to do naughty things, I got my eyes on you. I know about it. This has been changed as a result of that. The Shadow Shield Tweak and the Shadow Shield Tweak Plus now give minus. We've increased the tech of the Imperial Comet Cracker from 22 to 23. This was a weapon that I'm pretty sure was used on a drone. So this was the improper tech. That should increase the stats of that drone. The Twisted Fate of Death no longer has multi-firing. And this has shifted its stats around some. So Twisted Fate of Death does not have multi-firing on it anymore. Okay, we're near the end of these patch notes. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay. What do we have here? Next is okay, mission changes. Ring, repeatable tag. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Dementium blueprint missions have had the repeatable tag removed, and then we added an item exchange. There's blueprints that were added to Sadia's Fair Trade in Paxian Stronghold. So the Neutralizing Blast, Earth-Shaking Barrage, Lacerating Blossom, Demolishing Blast, Burning Blossom, Lancing Talon, and Smashing Talon blueprints. They weren't in there, now they're there. The Berserker Specialization Crystalline Research Mission is repeatable now. Okay, some universe changes. Some changes that are going to happen on this universe. So Singularity Breaks will drop more often from dungeons and other things. The Empyrean bosses have less radar bonuses. So they'll see you from less distance away. The Grand Empyrean Eclipse mag cannons have increased mass, so they'll cause more knockback. The Solar Annihilator missile, launched in the last phase of Grand Empyrean Eclipse, will now retarget if their original target dies. So they are going to hit something unless they get killed, or pushed away, or whatever, or dissipate. Okay, we're near the end. 3 sections left. Next universe changes. AI empires are going to expand during the universe again. AI empires are going to respawn an HQ in an owned galaxy if they can. But if you repair, claim, or transfer a station, it's going to cause hate from an AI empire, so they will start fighting. AI empires are going to prioritize defending suns instead of wormholes when it comes to where they put their bases. And you cannot get AI empires to forgive you via towing. All of this stuff is going to make taking galaxies with AI empires in them much more of a challenge. You will have to actually fight them. I've added a quantumly attuned keycard mission to Paxian Foothold to unlock a new tracker. This is wrong. It doesn't unlock a new tracker. It actually unlocks a keycard that was used for something, and it'll be clear what it's used for next universe. The basic class augmenter token item got added to Engineer Station. Cool. The trade cost for Paxian items in the Paxian Warehouse matches the cost in Myra. We fixed the missing tech level on the Atom module templates. And then the blobular cooling system blueprint wasn't replaced with the schematic version in Ikebana that has now been replaced. All right. Server changes. Radar tweaks modify vision. Now they modify detection. I said the opposite earlier. This is what's right. The end of the universe, at the very end, when the game has basically said, hey, all of your bases are going to stop extracting, things are going to stop consuming rations, etc., etc. When that happens, now termites are going to be disabled and killed. We made Bendomite events increase the drop rates even more. You're welcome. This was mentioned earlier about AI empires and forgiving you via towing. Done. Going into spirit form will no longer remove hate. Only towing in the same galaxy will. So, going into your spirit doesn't do anything. You have to tow your ship, and then you can remove hate. Missiles now have extra evasion from non-targeted damage, just like fighters. If you enter stasis, the galaxy scanner will be canceled. You will not get the info from the galaxy scanner. Plus items that are generated by the server will now reflect the quality of the non-plus version. This is for specific things like Titan Mag Cannon +2, etc., stuff like that. The text formatting of hull scanners has been shifted. It shows up in a dialog box now, and then it also gets critical hit resistances added to the scan. We tried to reduce the desync that was happening on other ships when gremlins were used. Transference weapons can be multi-fired. This is a big deal. Transference weapons can be multi-fired. Big deal, okay? Yes, shield monkeys, I'm looking at you. Berserkers, yes, you too now can multi-fire transference weapons. We added a show class skill DPS modifier checkbox to the ship dialog. This is still in beta. It should work pretty soon. Once we get it fixed, it'll work all the time. Stations now show the number of unused weapon slots. We've added the ability to equip fractional weapon slots. There's a certain mod that allows you to do that, and we will show fractional weapon slots. Okay, some bug fixes. We fixed the bug where hate pulsing from a lockout boss would not keep hate on players to make them valid for lockouts. or to keep giving them hate if they didn't do a hostile action. Basically, what this meant is that some people could go into a lockout or a boss and help someone kill the boss with like an aura or something, but gain no hate because for whatever reason the hate or the aggro that the boss put on them didn't stick. This isn't going to happen anymore. If your character's in the galaxy when the boss is being fought, it's going to get locked out. Um, we fixed a blocker tweak on spawn that was broken in various zones. This means that some AI, like in Celestial Encampment and in sorry, not Celestial Encampment, like in Ruined Sanctuary, did not have a blocker effect in the way that it was supposed to work, um, and now it does. So this doesn't affect just Ruined Sanctuary; it affects a couple other places, but those the things that spawn now have the blocker tweak that works well, so they can't just immediately be bursted down in the same way that they were. You gotta let the blocker tweak run out or just brute force it. We fixed the bug where planets and moons would get resources with 0 extractor slots, so no more can a planet or a moon have resources but no extractor slots. Market check was showing one distance in some situations for multiple jumps away when you use /MC. That's fixed. Doesn't do that. We fixed the bug that allowed missiles on bots to be manually launched. Somebody was manually launching missiles from bots. Naughty. We corrected the nuclear fusion collectors to show as such in the build menu, where before they were just shown as drills. So now they show up as fusion collectors. We fixed the bug that allowed for a stack of weapons to pass multiple instances of mods on instead of just one. So you cannot put a stack of weapons with the same mod in and to get the bonus from all of them. No more. Not allowed. Okay. Some known issues, and then I will leave you be. And hopefully by the time you finish this video, the patch will be live. Okay. For Seer, the damage increase for every 1% shields lost against up to against the target. That thing where you get double damage if the target's at half health. That doesn't affect damage over time effects. We haven't decided how we're going to fix this because there's a deep problem in the logic of the code. So if we fix this, it's going to have some knock-on effects, and we need to figure out whether or not we want to change this or not. We know this is an issue. We're determining whether or not this is something we want to keep as it is or if we want to change it. The critical hit device for Seer, the Seer auto crit device, only guarantees a single hit when multi-firing with one weapon. So if you fire 2 shots, only 1 shot is going to crit. If you multi-fire 3 shots, only 1 shot is guaranteed to crit, instead of all projectiles or all shots. But multi-projectile weapons, like 5, pellet weapons, work just fine. Sometimes the shield bar on enemies and allies, when they get hit by something, doesn't show up. The radar circle can get stuck and not reflect a sniper, not sniper, sorry, ranger's improved range when they're going under 40 speed. So if you press the radar button, you open it up and you see that red circle. Sometimes it doesn't change when you stop moving. You can do things to kind of make it go back, but it's kind of temporary. We have to figure out what to do about that. You can click through the Neuroforge overlay to what's behind it. So you can click through the Neuroforge by accident. So you might want to be careful with that. On the class skills tab, icons sometimes display the wrong thing. We know this is happening. We're trying to figure out how to fix that. The vectored minus vis or minus thrust visibility doesn't work correctly. We're going to fix that too. So when you get the vectored mod on your engines, it actually should reduce the thrust visibility. The rewired values are off when you do /show stat sources. So it may not show exactly as it should. We know. We're going to try to figure out how to fix that. And last but not least, there are still a couple of beams that give flat visibility instead of the intended % visibility. If you see some of these, please let us know and we shall fix it. And with that said, we are done. This is the patch notes. If any of you have any questions about these patch notes, feel free to ask in the Discord. I figured I'd give y'all a sneak peek about what's in the patch before the patch notes actually got posted. By the time I save this video and post it, all the patch notes should be here, and you should be able to look at them on your own leisure. And with that said, thank you all so much. Hober out.